Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to the seminar. As Sensei said, I've been with Superfoot for a very long time. I met him in '93 and asked him if I could go train with him, and he said, sure, come out to California. And I thought he was probably joking, so I didn't do anything. I saw him at another seminar, and he's like, I haven't heard from you. What's going on? And I was like, oh, I didn't know you really wanted me to come out. And he's like, of course. So he gives me his phone number, and then I called, and I got his home answering machine. I thought it was going to be some gym that I got a receptionist and could never reach him. I was like, oh my God, it's his home number. And we just clicked. I went out and stayed with him and trained. We did 2-hour privates every day for a month, an hour of kicking endurance and flexibility, and an hour of, well, Bill would call it sparring. I would call it trying to live for about an hour. So you guys, we'll do a quick little stretch. I know we don't have a lot of time, and I want to get into some technical stuff just to kind of give you guys some ideas on how you can incorporate different strategies in. All right, that's good. Hang down. Let's try to get the hamstrings loosened up a little bit. If anybody's ever done a seminar with my teacher, there's usually about an hour of stretching at the beginning, and my whole class here is 40 minutes, so we got to move. So, good. All right, guys, kneel down. So one of the things when you guys are doing like flexibility and you're working on the splits, your weight pushing down on tendons, ligaments, and muscles that don't necessarily want to go that way isn't always the most helpful thing for you to gain flexibility, right? If I say, everyone put your hands on the floor and get in a split, and it hurts, what's going to happen? All the muscles are going to contract and say, no, this hurts, I don't want you to do that. So for the first several minutes, you're just fighting against the muscles that are not letting you do it. So you really haven't gained flexibility. So if you just pained through 10 minutes of stretching and wonder why 2 months later you've not gained any flexibility, it's because you're fighting yourself the whole time. So I'll give you guys a couple really quick things you can do, watching TV, reading a book, whatever. So the first one, just a frog stretch. So we're gonna basically kneel down. My hips are above my knees. I put my forearms on the floor, and I just let my knees kind of slide apart a little bit. So this is gonna work the ligaments in the hip and the flexibility of the hip joint itself. And now, you guys, we need to be able to do things where our knee is chambered and we go around the person. So I'm gonna have you go forward and essentially like a sprawl and just try to touch your stomach or your belt on the floor, and then come back to center. Now we do the opposite. I want you to touch your hips on the floor going the other way. That's the one that most people usually moan and groan. So let's try to get full range of motion now. Just rock forward and backward a little bit. And so this is the motion that your hip needs to be able to go around the person, right? All right, so have a seat, feet apart, sort of a comfortable angle. I'm just gonna do a really quick set of 3 and hold each one for about 10 seconds. So clearly that's not gonna give you guys newfound flexibility. So this is gonna imitate basically the standing split, but there's no weight on the knees, there's no weight on the adductors and groin muscle. So put your hands behind your back, because when we lean forward, it starts to engage the hamstring, and that's gonna also limit your hip flexibility a little bit. If I lean back, it takes that pressure off the hamstring. Now everybody's gonna push towards me, but you're gonna try to get one foot to go out a little bit. So basically you feel a little bit more tension on the adductor group or inside of the thigh. So everybody push out a little bit, and then kind of stay lean back. So this is a position you guys can just kind of sit in, watch TV, read a book, whatever you're gonna do. And I've always heard the term that, oh, just stretch, you'll feel the muscle relax. I think probably 20 plus years, I was like, what is everybody talking about? I never feel the muscle relax. And then I had an injury on my left leg, and I sat down and I just kind of held pressure on that left hamstring. And I want to say I sat there for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, just kind of leaning towards the hamstring. And at that 15-minute mark, all of a sudden I felt it relax. I went, oh my God, that's what people have been talking to me about. You will eventually feel the muscle relax. The problem is you have to kind of sit there and hold that for a length of time. We're all predisposed to the way that we've moved our entire lives, right? So be it, putting your feet apart in a split isn't something you do as a non-martial artist, and it's probably not something you do outside of your martial arts training. So we need to kind of condition your body to say, hey, it's okay to put my feet apart. So push forward just a little bit more. So I want you guys to get a little more angle on that inside part of the thigh. I think you guys like pain, I don't know. So we're right on track. So. It hurts good. So my job today really, and we have another seminar tomorrow, but it's to kind of give you guys some transitions and some ideas. I know that not everybody's going to want to turn sideways and fight from a sideways Superfoot stance. I know everybody's not going to put their hand down like Superfoot, Ali, or Mayweather, but those are the positions that work for Superfoot. And the idea is that those are ideas, right? They worked for a person. We have to make them work for us. So I'll give you one quick story while we do the final push. You guys, one more time. So in my second full contact kickboxing match, I had someone in my corner that I hadn't worked with very much. I had my coach, and he brought in another assistant from the Paul Mitchell karate team that I also worked with pretty extensively. And in between rounds 1 and 2, that guy tells me he's open for the cross. Well, if I'm completely sideways, how long does it take that backhand to get all the way to that target? If you guys are opened up, it's not bad at all to use the reverse punch or the cross, but when you're sideways, man, it takes a day and a half to get there. And in my head, I'm thinking, I really don't like the cross. But coach said to do it, right? And we always do what our instructor says. So I get out there about halfway through round 2, I'm like, I gotta try the cross. And I got about halfway to it, and something hit me. I don't even know what he was throwing. And I could feel the blood. And I'm just like, oh, that's why I don't like that punch. And so I went back to the corner, they cleaned me up, and I was like, I tried to throw the cross. And they literally were laughing. They're like, yeah, we saw that. Thanks, guys. You know, so I go out in round 3, win the fight. I see Superfoot a couple weeks later, and I was like, Bill, can I ask you something? And he goes, yeah. And I said, this is what happened. And I told him the story of the fight. And he just looked at me funny, and he says, I have one question. I said, what's that? He said, who was fighting? You or the person telling you what to do? I was. He's like, well, then why'd you do it? I was like, I don't know, coach said to, right? And he's like, you have to make it work. You don't have to listen to the person in the corner if they tell you to do something ridiculous that you don't do. And I was like, oh, I should have had that information last month, you know? All right, so guys, hands behind your back now. We just loosened this all up. I don't want you to use those muscles to bring your legs back together. So I want you to lift your hips up and slide back just a little bit. And you should feel some of the blood kind of go back into the muscles. Right, now you're gonna reach under your knee, pick your leg up and kind of hug it a little bit, and then do the same thing on the other side. Our job is to keep the muscles that we just loosened up as loose as humanly possible, because we gotta kick stuff and we don't have a lot of time. So, on your feet. All right, guys, so I am not going to tell you to stand sideways or to do any of the things that I'm going to do, but I want you to understand how they work, and I want you to understand transitions that allow you to get there. So, Tyler, can you come up, please? So, just have you come over this side. So, all right, so take your fighting stance, anything you want to do. All right, so typically I am here because I've taken as many targets away as I can. The only target he sees from here straight is my head, and I can get my shoulder up, and I have my counter ridge hands or counter hooks. I have my side kicks, roundhouse kicks, and hook kicks. The thing is, when I'm squared up and I cock my hip for a roundhouse kick, he sees that hip turn. If I try to come around for a hook kick, I have to turn this all the way around here to get that leg up to throw a hook kick. So front kicks are great because I just pick it up and snap it, right? Whether it's a front kick, a teep, whatever you guys want to call it. That's easy, and my jab, cross, or my straights are really easy. But when I turn sideways, some of those techniques, as I just mentioned, are kind of gone, right? But my side kick, which is what Superfoot used to knock out 13 of his opponents. So yes, it looks like he's just kind of snapping it out there. But when you don't see it and it hits you in a place where you can't breathe afterwards, it's pretty hard to keep fighting, right? So a technique that isn't thrown hard, but it's thrown with good timing and very possibly with the other person stepping into it because they don't see it, you get the added power of your opponent stepping into the technique, right? I weigh about 180 pounds. I'm not going to hit much hard, but if I can be fast and I can hit you and you don't see what I'm doing, just maybe that'll work. Right? So go ahead and turn sideways for me just for a second. So I'm gonna have my partner leave their arm down so that I can work 3 kicking techniques without hitting my partner. If you guys wanna square up and take it to the stomach, I will not stop you. We'll get along just fine. So you guys, I'm gonna turn sideways, my arm is down. His arm is down because it's a target, so just stand there and trust me. All right, so all I'm gonna do is work my side kick. But my side kick should look like my jab or my back fist. So what that means is that when I throw my kicking technique, if I slide this leg up to kick, does that look like I'm gonna punch? Doesn't look like I'm gonna punch from the second I start. This leg starts to move, I'm not gonna punch. My punch, when I throw that, is my front leg, right? So I'm stepping and driving into the punch. So if I throw a punch and he sees me step in, and I throw a kick and he sees me shuffle, I've just told him when I'm gonna punch and when I'm gonna kick for the rest of our fight, right? It's hard enough kicking people. Why tell them what you're doing before you do it? So, hey, I'm gonna kick you. So how's that gonna work? So if I step into my punch, I also want to step into my kick. So that front leg will mimic the jab motion. So for those of you guys that are in the forward stance, when you throw the jab or the back fist, you can turn your hip and be able to slide up and use that side kick. So there will be transitions that work for you guys to imitate some of the Superfoot material or put it kind of on the tail end of what you do. You don't have to start sideways. I can start in front and turn sideways. I can angle over here and be sideways for a side kick. So there's so many different ways. I'm not gonna go into all that. That's up to you guys to figure out how to make it work for you. I'm just gonna give you the techniques that work for me and let you kind of play around with it. And they obviously worked really well for Superfoot, right? So I'm gonna step my front leg and I'm just gonna touch my partner's arm. Step, slide up, pivoted, chamber, and touch. My knee comes up in between us as the side kick goes out. So when you guys throw your reverse punch, the hand is up and the elbow is behind it, correct? You don't punch like this? So why would I kick like that? Why would I swing my leg up into a side kick? I want the knee up to drive through my partner, right? So I'm gonna step, slide up, knee up, and touch. Step, slide, knee up, and touch. So we're gonna work 3 kicks. To him, they should all look the same. If I step, slide up, and knee up, I don't have to throw a side kick from there, right? I can step, slide up, knee up, and come around. Step, slide up, knee up, and hook. He doesn't know what kick it is by step, slide up, knee up. And for that matter, if I've done this a bunch of times, he doesn't even know I'm kicking because you can take your stance. So just block the jab. Side kicks in because it was the same motion as when I stepped to punch, correct? If all I do is slide up to kick, he's got that blocked. But if he has to contend with that, right? And then good, so elbows in and around. So you just change it, you play with it. Make them think it's going someplace, but it's going somewhere else. The slow part of my kick is getting to here. The fast part is here, here, or here. Or fake here and go there. So we'll get into all that. So sideways arm down. Here's the drill. 10 times in a row my turn, 10 times in a row my partner's turn so that we get rhythm. Step, slide, touch, and back. Step, slide, touch. Step, slide, touch. So I'm just flowing in and out. All right, grab your partner and go. Make the step when you're gonna slide up and kick, have the intensity that the punch had. If your punch is dynamically stepping and then your kick is this, it's no good, it doesn't look the same. I need my partner to have to react because when we're sparring, he doesn't know when I'm going to kick, doesn't know where either. But I need him to be so worried about my punches that when I pick my leg up behind the punches, he's already kind of frozen in place a little bit trying to block. If I'm not fast enough, he can counter and he can get out of the way. If I'm fast enough, he's stuck with blocking or slipping because he didn't have time to move his feet or to hit me first. And if he blocks or slips, I can hit him with a combination. If he hits me first, it's no fun, right? And if he gets out of the way, not the end of the world, but if he can get out of the way, he can hit me, right? He has time to do that. But if I'm supposed to be in front of the camera, so so if I slide up to kick, just move out of the way, right? No matter how fast I do that, man. But how come he didn't get out of the way? So if I imitate that with that, he's not out of the way because he doesn't have time to be. He's reacting to a different thing. Does that make sense? So you guys, let's go sideways. Here, move here. All right, so we'll do the roundhouse kick a couple times and the hook kick a couple times, and then we'll try to smush it together so they look the same, and then hopefully show you guys how to apply it to sparring just a little bit. We don't have a lot of time. All right, so when you're using a partner, the side kick was here. I'm gonna use the roundhouse kick, but I want it to be behind the shoulder blade. Does anybody know why? How come I'm not kicking here as practice? But why do I want the shoulder blade? Center mass, right? So what's above the shoulder blade? Aha! I like kicking people in the head. So if I kick here, but I change that to the head, that's a miss. So I practiced incorrect distancing. If I go here, that's not a miss when I go to the head. So I'm used to the space between us when I throw a head kick. I will then also get used to having to defend against him blocking and countering. Out here, he really can't reach a block counter. In here, he sure can, right? So if I get used to being here, bam, and recovering, now he has to step to me again. So I'm working the correct sparring dynamics to throw a kick, giving me the confidence to throw a kick, right? The worst part of kicking is when we don't practice it like it's real, then we get countered when it's real. You're like, hey, that was fun, I'll go back to my punches. So, all right, so roundhouse kick, and just use, here, actually you're fine right there. No, spin, I changed my mind, spin. So don't hit the shoulder touch right there. So step slide, and now my knee is up like I'm gonna side kick, but I just touch the back. Step slide, knee up, back. Step slide, knee up, back. Not this or this. If he sees my foot go in that direction when I pick it up, it's a roundhouse kick. Now when I fake it out, that's okay, but I'm not faking it. Oh, I'm supposed to be in front of the camera. Sorry. I can't stay in one place. All right, so you guys, try to just touch the back of the shoulder blade. If you're worried about like the height, if you don't have the height flexibility for that, you could actually have your partner turn and use the stomach, and then you guys could either block it or block it with the forearm. I'd like you guys eventually to be blocking the technique so we get a reaction. So step slide up, roundhouse kick, but you gotta touch something. I don't care if it's the leg, stomach, shoulder, or head, but touch something with your kick, don't miss. Okay, guys, go. So again, this works fantastic to the inner thigh, groin, or stomach, but I'm here to kick people in the head. So turn, I'll have you turn. So for now, I want the same shoulder blade shot. I'm gonna have my partner turn, not even starting in front of the camera. So, okay, I couldn't even start the technique straight on. All right, someone's gotta reel me in. All right, guys, so step slide up, knee up, but now I want the hook kick to just touch. So the problem with hook kicks is most people put too much of the hip. They'll swing the hip into the kick, and then what happens is that hip movement makes me turn my back and gives him an awfully easy follow-up counter, right? So I don't want to torque my hip. If I'm throwing it and there's nobody there, my foot just whips through and I kick myself in the butt. So I step slide up and that. It comes all the way back. If you're practicing that, you should also practice re-chambering, because I don't want to get in the habit of my foot being here, because now all he has to defend is a roundhouse kick and he's got that shot, right? So I would throw it, bam, and then I'd put it back in the side kick position as a chamber, and then I'd step away. All right, so that's all for the camera. Take it home. So I want you guys, step slide up, knee up, and I'm gonna point my toes and just touch the bottom of my foot here. Okay, so step slide, touch. Step slide, touch. Step slide, and touch. Okay, go. So I'm gonna throw a jab, and I'm gonna slide up behind it and chamber my leg. Now I have 3 targets. I have my side kick, my roundhouse kick, and my hook kick, and my partner shouldn't know which one they are. For now, you can block. We'll just kind of go slow. It's helpful to me if my partner's blocking, because then when we put the combinations together, you're creating an opening, right? Combinations are designed to create an opening and hit it. If he doesn't move his hands, there's probably still an opening somewhere, but he probably knows what that opening is. And I'm gonna have to trick him a little more if he's not falling for it. Some of the best people I've ever fought in my life were really, really, really good boxers. You think you can get them to move their hands from here? You know, you can be like, hey, look over here. They're like, yeah, whatever, bam. So, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't fake, because it still gets me moving, it gets my leg up, and then picking a target isn't all that hard once you've kind of covered the distance. It depends a little bit on your partner, right? I mean, you're gonna have people that try to create distance if I step forward and he steps back. You're gonna have people that stay right there and look for the counter, and you're gonna have aggressive people that when we touch gloves, he just charges in and he doesn't care what I hit him with. So we're gonna deal with all those things just a little differently, depending on how much time we have today. Some of that might be tomorrow. But here's the drill I want. So I'm gonna throw my jab or back fist, and he's gonna block it. So I'll do it kind of medium speed. Don't back up though, just do the drill. So come on this way. All right, so I throw the jab or the back fist. Now, to be able to kick easily after we punch, here's the biggest thing that I need you guys to think about, the biggest kind of tip to being a kicker. If I step here to get my back fist reverse punch in, can I kick with this foot very easily? No, because if I slide up to do it, I'm jammed. So if I step but my head goes on top of this leg. Now, look how far away from my partner I actually am. His perception is that we're here, right? But I can come back to here really easily. So number one, this keeps me safe because if he throws the cross over the top, all I have to do is go back to neutral. I don't have to do that. I don't have to panic and get my head out of the way. Number two, when I slide up to kick, I'm at a good kicking distance. So I didn't throw a punch and get myself so close that I'm jammed on my kicks. So I'm gonna be out here and I go bam, 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 slide up, kick. The final point I want you guys to think about, if I know I'm kicking, I don't want to intentionally sacrifice my jab. So what I mean by that is it'll look like this on occasion. It'll be like, bam, bam, right? So he didn't believe I was punching on the third time. He's a really nice partner and stood there and took it, but he didn't believe me. So I need 1, 2, 3. My jab still is going to touch or reach because if it's a good jab, it'll force him to maintain distance and my kick will land. All right, so here's the drill. You throw a few back fists or jabs with your partner, slide up, knee up, now just pick the target, right? I'm not gonna do it on 3 because this takes too much time. So I'm just gonna go bam, bam, roundhouse kick around. Bam, bam, hook kick. Bam, bam, side kick. So I'm just gonna play with those ideas. Throw a couple jabs, slide up, knee up, side kick, roundhouse kick, or hook kick, your choice. Then your partner does it. So when you throw the kick, it's your partner's turn. Jab, 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 slide up, kick, your turn. Okay? If we're this far away, I'm not gonna throw the kick at you. I'm gonna get, now I will, because I crept in. So your job is to give me, you're gonna shorten the distance by enough that makes me wanna pull the trigger, but you're gonna take it away. And so now as you start to creep in, and I throw and you take it away, that's your, just barely.
Just barely, so I'm barely out of range.
Don't make them miss by a lot. Play chicken with it. It depends on, I mean, if you're in a match where a referee is gonna call a point that looks close, then you gotta take it away more. But if you're in something that's continuous contact, you don't really care if it touches. I don't even care if it touches, as long as it doesn't affect my balance. So if you're side kicking me, right, go ahead, you can kick. Right, so it's touching, but it's not impacting. And if you're stepping and driving, then I'm still just, I'm okay with you touching me, I'm just not okay with you sending me over there. And that's what's gonna give me the counters, because I'm gonna make you miss and hope to affect your balance just a little bit. And then as soon as you throw that kick, it's kind of a matter of like, oh, is it my turn or do I counter with my hands? What's the distance? Are you falling forward so I can counter with my hands? Are you maintaining balance so maybe I kick? Or are you going somewhere and I actually have to follow you and make up that distance? So it's always changing, right? All right, guys, break. So let me cover the 2 fake techniques. And then Tyler and I were having a really good conversation about distancing and timing and countering. And so for me personally, it's kind of about playing chicken with the person that's trying to hit you. And what I mean is if Tyler's gonna nail me with a side kick and I go way over here, it's nobody's turn, right? Because I got too far away. So we both have to kind of spar our way back to where we're gonna fight, right? But if he goes to nail me, he missed by that much, right? I'm even okay with it hitting me as long as we're not in a rule set where some referee is gonna go point when he touches my arm. You might have to move a little further if that's the case. But if you have continuous rounds, you know, I know you guys do a lot of conditioning where you can kind of take shots and give them back, and that I'm proud of you guys. I don't personally want to take anything I don't have to take. If I can move me just a little bit out of the way, I feel way better about that. So my teacher would say, in a seminar, he'd say, my nose isn't bent and blah, blah, blah. I can't say the same thing. My nose is crooked. I've been hit, been there, done that, didn't like it. So you guys, for me, countering is about, you know, how do we get to the sparring distance where he wants to pull the trigger, and then I want to make him miss. You have somebody that's really fast, it might be that, do you want to do what we just did? So I'll kick, and you step in. Okay, so yeah, so basically as I go to, step in a little bit, as I go to counter him, do it again. Yep, now take it away, right? So he kind of gave me timing and then he took it away. That's gonna make me miss. Now the question is, where did the person that missed go? Did they fall forward? Did they recover? Were they able to continue with the combination? Did they circle around? Those things all change what I would do next after I make you miss. But the idea to me is when you got somebody faster than you or hits harder than you, I just want to give them something that makes them want to do it, and then hopefully just kind of take the rug out from under them at the last second. If I move too soon, if I kind of go, why didn't you throw it? It's like, well, I did it so fast, you know, but it's kind of like I want to just give him something and see what he does with it. If he does nothing, then I know I can just throw my technique. He didn't react. If he reacts, what did he react with, right? So these are all just ideas as we spar. So the final piece of today's Superfoot, just for the technical aspect, is we just made all 3 kicks look the same. Now I want to show him one that isn't taking place. So the fake hook kick and the fake roundhouse kick, both of those are essentially a leg lift. What I don't want to do is I don't want a roundhouse kick that's going towards my partner that I have to stop, chamber, and do something else with. It's not going to happen. Your leg weighs a third of your body weight. Start throwing it in that direction, try to stop it and do something good with it. It's going to be really hard to do. But if I stick my leg here, what kick does that have to be for a split second? To him, it has to be a roundhouse. The foot's over here, right? What kick does that have to be for a second? A hook, maybe a bad side kick, but it's all I want him to really do is see it. If it all looked the same, and then I stick it here, what did his head do just a little bit? Oh, hook kick. That's all I need him to do. So if I step, slide, and lift, and start to see his head move, I just chamber and throw the roundhouse kick. Because lifting my leg allows me to just throw a different kick. I don't have to stop it and do something else with it. So it can be a leg lift change to a side kick. It can be a leg lift low and kick high. It can be a leg lift high and kick low. I don't care what you guys do with it. The idea is show them something, hit them somewhere else. So arm down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the hook kick. You can put the arm up. I'm going to throw the hook kick here twice. So I step, slide up, hook kick. When I do this one, it looks like the side kick. Step, slide up, hook kick. Okay, so step, slide, hook kick. Step, slide, hook kick. Step, slide, fake, touch the side kick. So arm down so I can touch that and not kill my partner's ribs while I'm figuring this out. Okay, so leg lift, step, slide, lift, different kick. If you have the flexibility, step, slide, and around the other side. Your choice, okay? Go. All right, guys, so really quick, just put this together with the first drill we did and kind of play around like you're sparring. Just go back and forth. You know, it's new ideas. Your body isn't used to it. The control's not going to be probably what you want it to be. So just play with the ideas. And again, you know, we started this whole thing with you were sideways and you turn. I mean, you were not sideways and you turned sideways when you threw the punch. Or I threw the punch and I changed my angle and I'm sideways because there's no difference if I shoot this foot that way, I'm now sideways to my partner. So there's a lot of ways to get in and out of a forward stance and be able to get into a position where you can use Superfoot techniques. You don't have to say, well, I'm forward, so those things don't work. And you also don't have to say, well, the heck with forward, I'm going to do Superfoot. And if you are sparring and you just decide that this is your stance until you're going to kick, and then this is your stance, that's not going to work, right? I just told him I'm kicking. I turned sideways. So everything has to look the same, and it has to be disguised by your movement. There is one final technique that Bill does to be really sneaky. So take your fighting stance. And so what he'll do is he'll literally just throw the kick. He won't step and slide up or do anything. He'll just throw it. If you're doing a seminar with him, he'll have you bounce your feet together, because what happens when my feet together is my head never goes towards my partner. Sometimes when we try to do that too fast, we shuffle. Where did my head go? When I shuffle, my head went towards my partner. When I bounced my feet together, it did not. So if he's looking up here, he doesn't necessarily see the kick start because my head didn't shift forward or backward. We'll try to get into that a little bit tomorrow. But what I want you guys to do today to tie everything together is that I'm going to go back to the drill where I throw a jab. He can block. So he blocks, he blocks, he blocks, and I have my side kick. Right, back this way. I'll change it up a little bit. So block, roundhouse. right? So all I'm doing is just changing which kick I throw after my punch. And I threw it at a pace where he could kind of block and react so I could play around, right? The faster you can get, the better. If he has trouble with that, even better. Because now he's and look at all that space for that side kick. If you're allowed to kick to the legs, even better, right? But when I was competing in the 90s, it had to be above here. So, and I was just saying, I was very thankful in the 90s that if I clinched, the referee kindly pushed us apart. I'm like, yay, we're back to where I can kick, as opposed to today where you got to keep fighting from there. That's a lot of work. All right, guys, go. So jab, jab, or back fist, slide up and pick a kick to do. I don't know there's another piece till I see people doing them. Can you do the first jab you were doing? Yeah. So, are we ever going to spar and he just leave it there? No. So if he throws that punch, boom, that's my turn. Boom. So I don't want him to be able to do that. So if I'm punching, I don't want it to be his turn. When he touches my arm is back. Got you first. Got you again. Bam. So now I'm making him block. When he finally blocks it, it turns into, it would be my hook punch if I had gloves on. It would be my ridge hand if I did not, right? Or even on the street, you got like the palm, like, you know, whatever you guys call it. I don't know. Some sort of karate technique. Someone was calling it a power slap the other day. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So my arm should be so relaxed that when he touches it, I'm not affected. I don't want this punch. What am I doing over here, right? But it's just, boom, it's just out and back, out and back, out and around. He touched it, I went around it. What position does the ridge hand or hook punch put me in? Thank you, who said that? So, if you guys can even be here and throw a ridge hand and be sideways when you're done with it. So if he blocks my jab and I turn that into a ridge hand or a hook punch, I don't care. Oh my God, it's Christmas, guys. So just bam, right? That side kick is there. So allow that to turn your hip into picking up your side kick. We can get into that a little bit more tomorrow, but whether you've thrown it as an offensive technique to get around the hand, or he threw this over the top and I threw it as a defensive technique with my shoulder protecting, my side kick is still there. I kind of prefer it when he's trying to hit me. So that means he ran into it, right? And gave me that wide open shot. So distance is really, really, really important, because if I kick and I step here, I might not have time to get that shot in. But if I kick and he has to step to hit me, sure I do, right? Now I get the shoulder, I can come over the top, and I have my side kick, hook kick. Hook kick's great there too, because if this hits, where's his head go? Wha-bam! Right into the hook kick. All right, so I know I'm about out of time. Hopefully I gave you guys some ideas. Just here's the final piece of this, right? You may not kick like Superfoot. You may not kick like me. I don't kick like Superfoot. I was not undefeated. But take the idea and determine, if you had to spar one of us, how would you modify your techniques to contend with what we're doing? And was it G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle? Doesn't help the second half of the battle sometimes. But but you guys, if you know what I have to do to fake you out or to hit you, just maybe you can think of a counter that you can get me with. And that's my favorite time. That's my favorite partner. When someone can pull off the counter, it's like, hey, let's partner up for, let's keep working. How'd you get that in? And, you hit me with something good, you're the first person I'm talking to when we're done. Like, hey, man, that was fantastic. How'd you hit me with that reverse punch? I had a guy years ago tell me that when I got tired, I stopped throwing a side kick and I started just using a roundhouse kick. He didn't tell me that until an hour later, after all the ridge hands to the body took the life out of me and I could barely stand. And I was like, dude, what were you doing? He was like, when you got tired, I knew I didn't care about your kick. I'd just step in and throw the body shot. Why didn't you tell me that an hour ago? He's like, well, that wouldn't be fun. Thanks. But that lesson from 25 years ago stuck with me because I didn't want that to happen again, right? So just take the ideas. Again, just think about and ask me. Guys, I'm here for questions. I'm here to help you guys. I'm not going to take offense to someone saying, well, when you do that, what if I do this? I love those questions because it gives us a chance to exchange information and hopefully help you with a piece of that puzzle. And then you can say, okay, cool, if you do that, I'm going to do this. It's like, yep, that's your job to pull that off, and it's my job to pull off what I'm going to pull off, right? When we're sparring, it's all about me. I'm not going to you know, you can have a day some other time. So, but we're going to play around. We're going to exchange ideas. I'm going to land some shots. You're going to land some shots. I'm going to figure out how and why, and hopefully go back to the gym and train and fix it, because it takes an awful lot of time to fix muscle memory and techniques. We got to go drill, 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 right? But you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe to Live Dan D.